Alright, this video is going to talk about markups based on cost. Now, in order to deal with markups based on cost, we have to understand the difference between cost and price. Cost is what the retailer pays. So that is the store that you and I would buy from. They pay a cost to get those supplies or those materials or those products. On the other hand, what we pay when we go to the store is called the price, and that's what the store charges. So basically what they'll do is they'll buy a product from the producer, they'll add a price to it, and then they'll sell it to you. Now that price they add is called the markup. The markup is basically how a store makes its profit. There's two types of markups that can happen. You could have a dollar markup, which is a set amount, but more commonly what you're going to get is a percent markup, which is based on the percent of the cost, the percent of what they paid for that item. For example, all TVs might be marked up 20%. And businesses can do markups based on two things: selling price and cost. In this video we're going to focus on cost. We'll do another video about selling price. Now you'll be running across four pieces of information within these problems. You'll hear terms like cost, selling price, percent markup, and dollar markup, and that means that we're going to be using two types of PBR circles. We're going to either be using one where selling price is the portion, cost is the base, and percent markup plus 100% would be our rate. And we'll see an example of that in a little bit. Or we might use a PBR circle where percent or dollar markup is our portion, our rate would be our markup percent, and our cost would be our base. Now in both of these you notice that cost is always the base. Okay, that's never going to change as long as we're figuring out markup based on cost. Okay, now one type of problem that we might see where we're finding markup is if we find markup percent based on cost. And an example would be where if we have Barnes & Noble paying a publisher $15 for a new hardcover book, we know they're going to mark it up $4, but you're being asked for the markup percent. So we're going to do a PBR circle where we use the dollar markup of $4 as our portion, and we know the cost of the book to Barnes & Noble is $15. What you're being asked to find is what is the percent, so that part of the PBR circle. Now remember how you use your PBR circle. You do this number divided by the number below it, so we do 4 divided by 15, which gives us 0.2666, repeating on and on. So we don't obviously want to put that as our percent. We're going to move our decimal point over 2 places and round. So we're going to round to the 10th place in this case. And that means that our 6 is going to make that go to a 7. So we're going to say that it's 26.7%. Now you may also be asked to find selling price. And in this problem we're actually finding selling price and we're finding the amount of markup in dollars. So we're finding the dollar markup. So two things that we're going to be looking for here. It says the cost of a computer tower at Best Buy is $500. Best Buy decides it needs a 25% markup based on cost. What is the amount of markup in dollars and what is the selling price? So there's really two ways that we can do this, and I'll show you both of them. You can kind of decide for yourself which one you prefer to use, but we're going to make a PBR circle where we have $500 as our cost, and in the first option you can find the dollar markup, okay, using that 25%. So I'm going to use 25% as a decimal, and we're going to multiply. So 500 times 0.25, and we get 125, which means $125 is our dollar markup. Now if I wanted to know selling price, I'd have to add the markup to the cost, so we'd have to say 500 plus 125 gives you $625. So Best Buy is going to charge you $625 for that computer tower. Now we did that by finding the dollar markup and then adding it to the cost. The other option is if we were to take the PBR circle that didn't use dollar markup but found selling price. So we would put in $500 for our cost. We know our percent markup is 25%, but because we're finding the selling price is the dollar markup plus the cost, $500. So we're actually not going to use 25%, we're going to use 125% as a decimal, or 1.25. And again, that 100% comes in because you're using the cost plus the markup, which gives you the cost of 100% plus the markup of 25%, or altogether 125%. Now, if I multiply this, 500 times 1.25, I get $625. So that would be my selling price is $625. But remember, the problem asks you for dollar markup as well. So in both cases, I got to do two steps. But in the second part, I have to take this 625 and subtract out my cost to figure how much it went up, which would give you $125. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it. I think most people probably prefer the first way, but it's, again, entirely up to you. Okay, now you may be asked to find cost if you're giving the selling price and the markup percent. So in this case, it says the selling price for a new truck is $28,118.48. You find out the truck was marked up 52% based on cost. What was the cost of the truck to the dealer? So they want to, basically it's asking you how much did the dealer pay for it before the markup was added. So when we do this, we're going to again do our PBR circle, and we're going to use the one that has cost and selling price, which means that our percentage is 100% plus the markup percent. Okay, because what it's going to mean is that that selling price is the cost plus the markup, the cost being the 100%. So when we plug these numbers in, $28,118.48, and the percentage again is 152%, or 1.52, and if I do that division, 28,118.48 divided by 1.52, I end up with $18,499. So that's what the dealer paid for the truck before they added their markup and sold it to you. Okay, and finally, the last type of situation you might see is where you're finding cost and selling price when you're given a dollar markup and the markup percent. So we're going to be using the PBR circle here that uses dollar markup because we're given that price, and in this case it's a gold bracelet that has a percent markup of 95%, and the dollar markup is $190. So we're going to put in $190 for our dollar markup, and our markup percent is 95%. Now again, because we're finding a portion, this is the markup, not the selling price, we're going to use just the percentage with no added 100%. So 95% as a decimal, 0.95. And if I divide that out, I get 190 divided by 0.95, and that comes out to be $200. Now that $200 is my cost. So I could tell you that my cost is $200, but that doesn't give me my selling price. In order to get my selling price, I need to know the cost plus the markup. Okay, so I'm going to take my cost of $200 plus the markup of $190 to get a selling price of $390.